Okay.
Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, everyone who is following this session. Welcome to Newlife SDA Adventist Church, 5th Ngong Avenue, Kenya. It is afternoon here, and we have an interesting topic that we are going to be discussing. Before then, I will ask one of us to pray, then we can take off. Kasma.
Let us pray. Thank you, Father, for the gift of life and for the gift of the Sabbath. As we gather here today to speak about resilience and mental wellness, we pray that you will be with us. You will be our guider and protector. Help us to communicate our thoughts clearly and let them have impact upon the people who are going to hear it. This we ask in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Welcome once more to this afternoon discussion. We will be looking at resilient mental health, God's mission, my mission. For those who know, the lesson this quarter is about God's mission, my mission. So if it's God's mission, my mission, I need to be in the right state of mind for me to be able to take it forward. And for that, I need us to know that for the longest, mental health issues have been swept under the carpet. Not many people get to know about or understand what mental health is. So for today, we are happy to be here to be discussing this topic. And I pray that as we go through this topic, it will be able to touch someone who will be become better to serve God in furthering his mission. With me, my name is Margaret Okenye. I'll be the moderator. And with me is a very able team of panelists who I would like to introduce themselves in this order. You'll tell us your name, what you do every other day of the week, and what makes you wake up to go and do that. So I'll start with my far left. Welcome.
Happy Sabbath. Happy day. This is Dr. Austin Omanya. Austin Omanya is a mental health champion. Austin Omanya is a lecturer at KCA and JQuat. And what we do like every day, whenever we wake up in the morning, I hope most of you are following our online interactions every morning. We give hope to the world. And that is why we are here today. May God bless us all.
Thank you. Thank you, Austin. Next.
Thank you so much. My name's Dr. Pacifica Onyanja. I know I'm not new in this place, but for those who are following us, I am a psychiatrist. My daily work is to actually attend to those who have escaped resilience that we are going to talk about, and they have found themselves with mental illnesses. I'm a practicing psychiatrist, and I practice across the Nairobi, most of the hospitals. And every morning I wake up saying, I wish all of us would appreciate that we have a mind that needs to be taken care of. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Pacifica, next.
Happy Sabbath. My name is Chris Limo. I'm a therapist in private practice. And as a believer in a God of second chances, my mission is to set out to create a world of happiness, joy, and freedom. And for the purpose of this discussion, I also live with a mental health condition. Thank you.
Happy Sabbath.
Happy day.
My name is Caswell. I'm a musician. I teach. I'm an educator. I work with all ages. I'm also, you said the thing that wakes us up. For a greater part of this year, it was anxiety because I could not sleep. That's on a very light note, guys. I think I've seen worse. And I'm happy to be here. Just like Chris, for the sake of the discussion, I live with a mental illness and I'm managing. I'm just a couple of weeks old. And I can't wait to share with you what the journey has been like so far. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Cass. It's so good to see every one of you here and the fact that you're willing to share with us. And this is what we are looking forward to listening to. And I'm calling whoever is outside to come in and listen because it's going to be a journey that you wouldn't want to miss. Thank you so much. Now, we have mentioned mental health. Recently, we carried, I think on Thursday, we sent out a survey, and I was looking at the results. And some of the responses were, what do you hear when you, what comes to your mind when you hear mental health? And I saw responses like madness, sickness, not being well. That is what people are saying. Now, for the sake of those who want to get to learn more, we are going to hear the definition. Dr. Pacifica, we have two words here, mental and we have health. Could you try and substantiate this for us?
Thank you so much, Margaret. I am happy to actually elaborate on what that is. Mental health actually consists of two words, and allow me to separate them and divide them. Mental is derived from the mind. And I'm glad to say that there's a difference between the mind and the brain. How? That the mind is within the brain. The brain is the organ that you see. The same way you can talk about the head, you can talk about the leg. So the brain, you see it. But the mind, which is within that brain, you cannot see it, you cannot feel it, you cannot touch. Yet it is one which can also be sick. So when we are talking about the mental, we are talking about the health of the mind, which also the opposite is true, that we have diseases of the mind. Now we'll be calling mental illnesses. Many at times when we talk about mental health, people tend to think that we are talking about a sick. We are talking about a mind that is healthy, and how do we make sure that we have that healthy mind? WHO defines health as not just a mere absence of disease, but is a state of being mentally, now that is from the mind, physically, that is your body, now the organs, and the socially, which is the relationship with those around us. And that is when you can afford to talk about you are healthy. So health, mental health then, is a state of the mind that you can say, I am in the mind, the state that God wanted me to be, to have. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So what I hear Dr. is saying, mental health is, there is the mind and there is the brain. When you go to hospital, they can detect sicknesses of the brain, but they cannot detect sicknesses of the mind. So the mental health is the state we all want to be in. And when you say you are healthy, it means that physically, mentally, and socially, you are well. So is that what I heard, Dr.?
You are very right. Such that when you go to hospital and all tests are done, blood, urine, stool, X-ray, MRI, name them, and you are told we can't see anything, it doesn't mean that you are not sick. It means that the mind is not okay, and many a times it will present with the physical symptoms of other diseases. So what I want to emphasize, if you can't go home with anything, please note this, that when you are told that all is well, after going through investigations, don't think that now that nothing has been seen, we always conclude that somebody somewhere is not happy with me. Please think about the mind.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Please don't go to the witch doctor when you're told you're not well. There is the mind that you need to deal with. Now, as we go on, maybe I would like to hear from Casmel. What would you think are the causes of mental illness?
I think some of it might be hereditary. I think that's the most obvious. It's the first question which I saw doctors ask is, has there been a person who's been diagnosed previously in my family or in my history? Also difficult times. It could be things like childhood trauma, assault of any kind. It could be physical or whatever kind of assault. I also think excessive use of mood-altering substances. I've seen that cause mental unwellness amongst people. The rest of it, I really do not know, because for me, I can't quite pinpoint whatever it was that started me, but I can say right about this time, I saw a sign, and I probably ignored it, thinking it was just normal. And then the next moment, I was in hospital, and they thought they would hospitalize me. Yeah.
Thank you, Casmo. Now, Casmo is telling us there are many causes of mental illnesses, but it's not easy to pinpoint according to what he sees. But there are causes. Just imagine today, in the world we are living in, somebody who has done a good job has lost the livelihood of his family or her family, and they are at home. Just for you to think through this. Do you think that person will behave as when they had a job? That's a question for you. Now, as we go next, I maybe want to hear from, let's hear from Austin. Sorry, I didn't ask which name I should call you in. So I'll call you Austin for now. And then Daktari, so that you differentiate. And Limo is okay with you? Chris, Chris is okay. This is Casmo. And if I say Cas, that's fine. Okay, so even as we go on, I would like us to just think back. Do you think a church like New Life would have people who have illnesses? What would you think that could be caused by? And as we hear this, I would like to hear from Austin whether there are other causes of mental illness that he might want to tell us.
Wow, amazing. Thank you. That is a wonderful question. Actually, all of us come from a family setup. And the major cause of mental issues, the ones we are speaking about here today, is the family background. If you come from a family like mine that was a bit broken, and then the family is again filled with a lot of rejection, you are prone to suffer mentally. So family background plays a huge role. You see, I was telling another audience that I think, the second person who has been rejected after Jesus. You know, I'm used to rejection. And rejection teaches you resilience, the one that we want to check today. I think I thought it was at home only to go to school when I could not feel the capital city of Rwanda. I just told the teacher Burundi when he asked me, and the teacher called me names: a fool, good for nothing, go and sit at the back. I think it was a bit traumatizing, you know. So one major cause of mental issues is family background. Then we go to our environment. The environment where you are going to be found. Do you know, even in this church, it could be a cause of mental illness to someone. Yes? Imagine you are in a church whereby maybe you are not appreciated, or a church of rumor mongers. Yes? You hear this, you hear this, you hear this. So that could be also a challenge. Then maybe lastly, so that I also give my colleagues here, FM, financial management. Right now everyone is crying, oh, life is tough, oh, tax, Zakayo, and you call it. Do you know finances is a major cause also of mental issues as we speak? And that is why we advocate that in every church, at least, we talk and mentor the congregation about financial management. So it is also an issue.
Thank you so much. So what we hear: family, environment, and finance management, or lack of managing finances could be a cause of illness. And Casmo talked about almost the same causes, but I would like to hear from Chris if there is any other you'd like to add.
Maybe I'd say the experience of being human is a cause for mental health breakdown. Life is hard. Yeah, life is hard, whether you're a child who has, or a teenager especially, or a young adult, and then adults. So the experience of being human and being an imperfect being is an entry point to a mental health breakdown. Because the expectation that perhaps we have, we talk about the nature, nurture, then culture, the expectation is that we should be perfect, we should be okay all the time, and then when we are not, the question now there, the mental health breakdown and every other thing, those financial breakdowns that I'm supposed to have rent, if it's for 12 months a year, and when I don't, then that means I'm not okay. Yeah, I'm supposed to meet my needs, my school fees, and all those things. I'm supposed to be the perfect boyfriend, or the perfect girlfriend, or the perfect husband, or the perfect wife. When I'm not, then it triggers, saying I'm a failure, I'm a loser, and there's nowhere to ask. And especially, I want to speak for us men. For we men, we have been given this expectation about being, I don't know whether it's a top wrestler or the top footballer or whatever, you need to be there all the time. And the only phrase we use about all the time, the only person we attribute that to is God, being good all the time, and that is his nature. But at times we men, I feel we are given that attribute, and we do not have an access to say, I'm not able, or I'm afraid, and maybe just to illustrate, if I can, I was first diagnosed 20 years ago with depression. And I was in what was a hot career. I was a hairdresser, a male hairdresser, and I was miserable as a hairdresser. And yet everybody I told I was a hairdresser, the first thing was, wow, But I was not enjoying myself. And because I was not enjoying myself as a male hairdresser, the expectation was that I was supposed to be, hot and glamorous and all that. And I was not feeling any of that. And then I started feeling miserable. And the confusing thing is that I was 5 years sober in recovery from alcoholism. So this was not the time to be depressed. How do you tell people that now I'm 5 years sober, and then I'm feeling depressed? They say usually the response was, hii ni ugonjwa ya kujiletea. Yeah, it's self-inflicted. It's you who's not trying hard enough. You're not praying hard enough. You're doing something. There must be something wrong you're doing. And after all, you're a hairdresser. So by the time, fortunately, I had known about counseling. So I was working in a salon in Madaraka Estate. So I just walked out one day from the salon and went to Amani Counseling Center, which was around the corner. And I told them I was feeling suicidal. Thankfully, in a space like that, they take it seriously. Anywhere else, even, I dare say, in the church environment, you're told, but it's not your life. Who do you think you are to start thinking of taking it? Who gave it to you? So it just makes me know the one place not to look for help is perhaps where the help is available in a space like this. So I got listened to, and within 10 days I was admitted at Chiromol for 10 days of treatment for major depression. And I lived with it again for now I was on appeal for about 6 years. And then because of the economic thing, because again, they are not cheap. Medication is not cheap. At that time, appeal was about 200 bob a day. And then, and then there was therapy. Going to therapy to understand. So I got to read a lot about depression, to read about its symptoms, to read about the treatment, and more will be revealed.
Thank you so much, Chris. Chris, we are so honored for you sharing your journey. And as you've heard, he's lived with it for 20 years now. For 20 years now, he's been on appeal to be able to function. And here he is, educating us about mental health. So it is possible to get to know once you know your state, it's possible to get help and live with it. So don't give up. So I would like to invite Dr. Pacifica. Just give us how are the statistics like for mental illness in this country?
Thank you so much. It's not about this country only, but maybe globally. But before I do that, as you're asking about the causes of mental illness, it's good to add that sometimes when we are sick physically, the mind can also be affected because of what you call organic. So the medical cause of mental illness is real, that somebody who has been battling with maybe diabetes for a very long time, you are likely to actually now suffer from mental illness. I know we have heard about cerebral malaria. That is real because it is because of the organisms. So even mental health can be caused by organisms. We also have causes like the state of the glands. Hypothyroidism is also known to cause diseases, for example, the depression. So those are many other causes of mental illnesses, so we call them as organic. Now, when you look at mental illnesses, that is the opposite of mental health. When you are not healthy, then it's a state. Just at a glance, we find that 1 in every 4, maybe those of us who are seated here and those even online, just count 1, 2, 3, 4, is the chances that you are actually going to suffer from mental health in a lifetime is real. That is what statistics are telling us. And unfortunately, that's how when you go to the specific diseases, some are so many that around 970 million globally have actually suffered, or others are suffering from mental health illnesses. So when you look at that, how many countries are making 970 million? Kenya, we are about 50, I don't know whether we are around 55 or 57 million. So we are talking of a big number. Research done in hospitals, all of us go to seek health. Almost 30 to 40% of those people who are seeking health because you are having a problem here and there, they're actually mental illness-related cases. So it is something that is real, is a lot. As much as it has not been documented, especially in our area, it doesn't mean that it's not there. Finally, I want to say this, that there are so many patients or people being followed up in various clinics for a wrong reason. For example, I pick heart diseases. When you have anxiety, which is a mental illness, you will have your heartbeat very, very fast. You are aware of your heartbeat, and many at times we will always assume you have a heart problem, and we'll find you in the heart clinic instead of being. So for 30 to 40% of those ones are actually misplaced. Those are the statistics, and it is real.
Wow. Did that sink in? The numbers they are scaring, yeah? So I was just trying to count as we sat, and I decided probably she's the one, not me. So maybe as we go through this, maybe we could call in Casmo, and I'm looking at the symptoms. How do I get to know that I have my mental illness? What is it that I need to look at? Or what, maybe from your experience, what is it that told you could not know? Well, thank you.
I think if there's something I learned. First of all, I hated the whole experience of going to hospital because for me it was a trick, and that's happened to a lot of people. But part of what they say are things which I thought were normal because, like every other quote-unquote crazy person, I insisted that I was not crazy. But if you find yourself spending recklessly, like for me, I found myself every once in a while just risking it all for a stupid thing. It's nothing that's functional. I didn't know spending excessively was one of the signs. If you find yourself being at very high highs and being at very low lows, people who know me know I organize the plot and we can party for 3-4 days. We can have a sleepover, have a sports day, organize a concert where you're exerting yourself too much, and then when you're crashing, you're crashing. Because I always knew that my years look like this. Around August, there will be a 3-4 week period where I can't shower and I cannot eat, I cannot leave the house. So I knew that's how my year ends. So I usually tell people I will crash somewhere in August, September. And there's times where I'd go to work without sleeping. So you find yourself not sleeping. But also I didn't know that there's a positive form of stress, which for me manifested, where I would get really excited. So now once I got the chance to shower, the same way I could not wake up for 5 weeks, now I'd sleep in after every maybe 48, 72 hours and pump myself with a lot of sugar or energy drinks. And the last time before I was committed, I was excited to see a friend of mine on the road, and I was racing him. And then I was, in my company, was a lady I'd taken from hospital who had gone through a very traumatic experience. So because she was crying, I wanted to get home. The next thing I knew, I was flying off of Thika Road. And then I was just like, I wish I had died the time I had planned it, because I felt like now this is very shameful and it's not even going to take my life. It's going to be another cost. Now I'll have to live with this kind of stress. So if you're looking out for signs, if you're finding doing basic things to be difficult, like showering, eating, cleaning your space, if you have very high highs and very low lows, if you're struggling with suicidal thoughts, because those are very real. And I remember for me, it was the last time that it was very difficult. I remember going somewhere. I do not take drugs, but I remember going and saying, today I want to take drugs and I want to get wasted. I called a couple of friends. They were unavailable, so I decided to do it for myself. I tried calling all the available suicide helplines that I could find. I Googled. I couldn't find any person. And then the person who saved me, when I was driving back, and I was just like, now I'm tipsy, if I crash, that's fine. The person who saved me was a lady who was trying to jump off of a 6th floor building on Ngong Road. So when I saw her, all the drugs that were in me went out, and I shouted, no, please don't do it. And I was screaming, and I was like, nobody's coming to help you. Those suicide helplines are not working. And then finally she went back to the house. So for me, I was lucky because I found a thing that was greater than myself that would help me see a bit of purpose, because I was losing it. If I were to sum it up, I would say if you're finding it difficult to do those things, be on the lookout, because you're not in a good place.
Thank you so much for that sharing, Casmo. That even before you actually knew there's a time you'll crash. There will be the highs and the lows, and that you also realized you are spending recklessly, and even to a point where you actually got suicidal thoughts. And that suicidal ideation, I think maybe some, even in the congregation or those following us online, maybe some people are aware of that, and maybe they don't know where to go. And it's sad that we do not, like he says, he Googled to look for suicidal lines where we can get help, and there wasn't there. Is it possible to be our brother's keeper even as we go through this life, so that we can always check on what one is going through? Thank you for that. Now, I want you to know that as we go on with this discussion, we have questions and answer probably in another 15 minutes. So if you have any questions, kindly put them down. If you are not able to ask from the congregation, you can actually put a note and pass them to Mrs. Caro Mboya. She's seated right here. You can stand up. So if you have any questions and you are not able to ask, write it down and pass it to Caro. Now, so as we go on, maybe it's important to hear from our Austin, as a counseling, as someone who is in the helping profession. What are some of these things you have come across that people present with most? Casmo has shared his experience, but maybe you could have other additions.
Thank you for that question. I handled a case that was very difficult. I don't know who else in this congregation might have handled that case. During COVID-19, just the other day, a client came to the office, walked in the office, and asked me that, you know what, I think my world is crumbling. Then I was like, okay, sit down, we can always talk. Then this lady, a single mother of two, the boy who is in 4th year had impregnated his sister who was only in Form 1. This is a single mother. It was a very tough situation in that family because I didn't know whom to start with. Because the girl wanted to take her life away. The boy was full of guilt. The mother, shame. How are you going to face the world? So it was a very difficult situation. But let me tell you, people are going through a lot, including my students at the university. They have a lot of baggage they are carrying. And you see what? There is something I was reading in 2nd Kings. If you read with me from verses 7, chapter 7, verses 3, the story of 4 guys who had leprosy. You know, they were meant to die somewhere. And then they said, what shall we earn by simply sitting here? Yes, we are in this situation. We've been chased away from, home. We are going to die if we sit in this desert. So, can we make a decision? They made a decision, and they went, and of course, they rescued the masses. So, I'm just saying this. That lady, today as we speak, the child was born because she was telling me if they can resort to maybe abortion or something of the kind. I told her the best thing is maybe to let the girl go to her aunt, whom I called. You know, it was a therapy and a therapy and a therapy. The girl gave birth. The boy went on and did his final examination. And of course, he passed. And the lady, because of low performance even at job, she had to quit her job. And you see, by the end of the day, a lot of things followed. Anyway, to just summarize what happened. The lady, as we speak, is a very strong Christian, helping us, especially in our group. We have a global group for therapy. She's helping us, telling people that, you know what, not all hope is lost. Because by just speaking, I got help somewhere when I wanted to take off my life. So that is just one case.
Like you're saying, thank you so much for that, Austin. Like you're saying, suicidal ideation will come from not knowing who you want, who you can talk to, and that feeling of shame and guilt, and also feeling like now the world has crumbled on you. Chris, I would like you to maybe just tell us what is this suicide? Why would someone get to that level, even as we have said it?
Suicide, usually it's to escape the pain. When people are having suicidal ideation, it's not that they want necessarily to die, they just want the pain to end. They want the confusion to stop. They want the frustrations to be, so it's not about dying, you know, maybe and it could be, because for me, I remember at that point, you see that even mental illness can come with successes, not necessarily tough times. It can also come with great times. Like, for instance, if the assumption that being a great hairdresser, you know, means I'm successful, and I was feeling anything but successful, you know, you'd have imagined that perhaps go for more training, go for, you know, just keep experiencing, but it was the opposite effect. So suicide, usually, it could be, it's mainly about ending the pain, wanting to end the pain. For me, where I lived at the time, where I even went to Chiromo Mortuary, you know, there's University of Nairobi, the School of Anatomical Sciences. That's how I know it existed then. Because when I was feeling suicidal, I had been 5 years sober. Yeah, so I was also clear about what was going on. And that was even more baffling. You know, when at times, most times there's a lack of self-awareness. Yeah, so people are not aware even of the symptoms. You know, they're just feeling funny. You know, either you have too much energy or too little energy. But for me, I think, allow me to use this word, the demon was the self-awareness, that I could see what I was doing. And that also did not make sense for the support system I had. So I speak to the superintendent to ask, what do I need to do in order to donate my body for research, so that people, my family, do not have to form a committee, a funeral committee, to raise money when I've taken my own life. And of course, she told me, the superintendent told me, but you're so young to think like this. But I said, give me the information anyway. And she gave me that you need a will and an affidavit because I was clear I did not want my family to be burdened with funeral contributions and funeral announcements and that kind of thing. Well, I did not do it. I'm here. I'm here. But also self-awareness helped me, because at that time, I still talked about what I was feeling. Yes, there were what nowadays in social media are being called haters and cancel culture. You're being told, but, you and your sophisticated shares and, but sharing I still did. And for me, that's even maybe, I know you might ask for some solution, but sharing helped me, because that's how I got the help I needed. And with time, even today, I do have that different kind of support structure. There's that one person who will tell me what to do. Yeah. Then there's that one person who will ask me what's going on. Then there's that other person who their job is just to listen. So building that support system, and it's there. That's who church is, isn't it? That kind of community. So let's not, it's not about burdening one person with all those roles. A recent example, so with success. And as recent, my wife is here, my lovely wife Wendia, as recent as the day before yesterday. I recently graduated and with a master's in counseling psychology. And there's a part of me that's saying, I'm 52. I should be 40 graduating with a PhD, not even a master's, So now, what's the point? And yet, I'm still on the, I still take my pill. So please also understand that medication is not necessarily to take this depression, and maybe Dr. will tell us, for me, it was to stabilize, then I can have clarity. And I told her, I'm feeling low. In fact, for the last 2, because that experience of the master's was also hard. And then you graduate and you say, is this it? We did so much work. Is this it? And that, is this it, is such, I think it's a good question. I think it's a good question to ask, is this it? But I also wanted permission to ask it. Because remember, I'm still a man in a patriarchal society. There are times I'm supposed to know, to be clear, to be the vision bearer. And at this point, I don't have it. Now, I need courage to be able to ask that question. And I need support. And we had such a beautiful conversation. And I felt heard and affirmed. And it was, all of a sudden, it was okay. And I went to my support group, just to be with other people for a moment. And I bounced back for that day. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you, Chris. Yeah. He just recently graduated. Some of you would have called us to parties and we'll be all over. But he went that low, just questioning himself. And what I hear him say, he got support. Somebody who was ready to listen. And I know from what I hear, what Chris is saying, there's need to have a support system. Somebody who understands you, who can reach out to you. I don't know how many of you have such. And I want to return it back to Cass, to just explain to us, Cass, more. You said you were tricked to treatment. But just tell us, what is your view of that person who made that effort to make sure you went?
I think because I see the bigger picture, I do not have any resentment or hard feelings toward them. Because thinking about it, they were acting in my best interest, the best way they knew how. So they were like, this is a person who we've never seen drunk, we've never seen smoking, we've never seen posting suicidal things on Facebook. The best thing is to get him to a hospital. A couple of hospitals that we went to were very money-centric, and they found one which seemed, which was owned by a person that they knew, and it seemed that it was a good place. I think with that regard, I forgive them. But a lot of the people that I met there also had been tricked. Some have been told that they're going to the embassy and then they find themselves there. Some were told that they're going to visit a student who lived around that area, then they found themselves in rehab, and it's like a 3-month program. And so one of the qualms I had with it is I found myself, one, denying and thinking that I'm more special than the addicts, because in a level 3 hospital, it treats both addicts and people who have mental illnesses. I felt superior, because when people would visit and they would introduce themselves, they would say, "Hi, I'm Caswell, I'm a recovering alcoholic. Hi, I'm Ore, and I'm a recovering bang or whatever addict." When it got to my turn, and there was 2 of us who had bipolar, when it got to my turn, I was like, "Hi, I'm Caswell, and I'm a human being." Because, like, why would you lump me with these people? Then going for Alcoholic Anonymous meetings and Narcotic Anonymous meetings made me so aware how vulnerable I was. Because now I started panicking and feeling, if I stay in this place any longer, I see how real addiction is, and I'm exposed to it. So I'm not sure, if I go back out there, will I go as an addict? How will I cope with life? And with that, I think I became more compassionate. I saw people as people, because we watched a movie that the way people are exposed to crime, and we were talking about the way the options for an addict are either institutions, jail, or death. And while we might crave, as Chris has correctly put it, as a person who's been suicidal ever since I was in high school, it's always been about making the pain go away. Even the last time, I was just like, I want someone to make the pain go away. And with that, I would say to anybody who's going through anything, if you're a young person or you're in church and you're listening, one of the things I would urge you to, if you're fortunate enough to get help, accept it. I know it's hard for us to accept help that we've not worked for, especially if you're used to fending for yourself, but be open to accepting help. Because for me, if it were not for the people who are in this church who knew me and took a chance on me, I don't think I would be alive today, because I had a very elaborate plan on how I would go the last time that it was. Yes.
Thank you, Cass. Thank you for that. Accept help. There's a lot of denial, because if I was asking this to my panelists before we came here. If I asked you today, how are you? I know the response, or even without thinking, I don't even know why we asked that question. How are you? We say fine. But are you really, really fine? It is okay not to be fine, and it's okay to tell it. And I think then most of the times we are not okay to tell it because we think somebody will tell that story somewhere. So we are afraid of us appearing weak, is it? So today, Casmo is telling us it's okay to accept help. It's okay to tell it for you to be fine. Daktari, we hear that we want that pain to go away. Can it ever go away? What is out there for somebody who is going through mental illness that can help them to be well?
Thank you so much. And I think all of us who are seated here were wondering, this pain is not a pain that you can give Panadol or anything, but there's a pain in you, which you yourself, you are not even able to explain, and leave alone how to remove it. Allow me to just mention to speakers just a little bit about what we call psychodynamics of suicide. At that time, that becomes the best option because you actually have no solutions. And you desire and admire actually doing that. It is something that you long for. I have had cases where, for example, one student of law actually saved money. She wanted to commit suicide in a 5-star hotel, and that is exactly what she did. as time goes by, is because of the imbalance in the neurotransmitters. Now maybe that's where I can come as a doctor. That it is what is pushing you to that. And at that time, the only thing to do and admirable thing is for you to die. And you look at it with a lot of, expectation and hope, as they are saying, it's about the pain, but you look at it with a lot of admiration and expectation to actually go the other side. One time, a patient comes, and once we successfully treated, because it was very bad, he comes back and asks me, why did I want to die? Because now everything is right. I am sure Casper can tell you, he's wondering after he left, he's like, what was the reason? They can say it's pain, but many at the time, when there is that excessive imbalance in the neurotransmitters, then that is what happens when you've reached there. Is there help? As he has said, it is true, it is help. I just want also to speak about the issue of accepting help. When you have reached a certain level of mental disease, mental illness, the disease of the mind, you are no longer in control, and therefore you need another mind to make decisions for you. And that is why I will tell you with a smile that many of those that have led to hospitals, as like Casper, is by tricking. Sometimes we even use police to actually tell you, you have committed a crime and you need to go and write a statement, but only to find yourself in hospital for treatment. At that time, we say you have no insight and you cannot make a decision. And therefore, decisions will be made for you. It is until now things have been corrected and the imbalance has been corrected that you start appreciating that for sure I needed to be helped because I was not in the right place or in the right state. So my friends, when you see somebody who is unwell and is saying, I am not sick, please get professional help on how you can help that particular person, because they are not in a position to actually accept help. Finally, I want to say that mental illnesses, the presentation is totally different many at times from the physical, but also at the same time, there are some of the mental illnesses that present with physical illnesses. So when we are talking about how can you know that you are sick, my friends, I always talk even for ladies, we complain so much about backache. Many of them, majority actually, is because of anxiety. Can you imagine backache associated with anxiety? You will go for that x-ray, for everything, and it is not working. Sometimes you have headaches, which we have called migraine, but it is not migraine. It's about anxiety. There is a disease which I think some of us saw even in the TV, what happened in the leg girls. That is what you call conversion reactive disorder, which is a mental illness that means that there are psychic conflicts in the mind that can be turned to anything physical so that they can be addressed. Finally, in suicide, we also have what we call pseudo or a para-suicide, which is a cry for help, but it can also easily translate to true suicide. Thank you so much.
Wow, that's well elaborated from the professional side. And as Dr. was speaking, and I had imbalance to the neurotransmitters. All right. So go and Google that word. Now, I'm just wondering, Chris, you said you are now did counseling. It's like, where is the place of counseling in mental illnesses? Which are those cases that come to counseling?
Counseling is about empowerment. It's about empowerment, and when they walk into my therapy room, there's nothing wrong. At least the way I view them, there's nothing wrong. Probably, life is not working the way they'd like it to work. It's not working. But there's nothing wrong with life not working. So many times, in fact, it depends on the ones who walk in and the ones who call. I have two distinct people. The ones who call are the family members. So even I wanted to add that caregivers also need care. So they also come for counseling. They think it's about the other person, but really I'm empowering them to be a caregiver. And for the counseling, simply put, what I do, I provide clarity. Because they cannot see, it's just to shift their focus. Because maybe the trigger is you've lost a job, you've been dumped by a girlfriend or a boyfriend, or you've graduated. If I was to go for counseling myself, how would I deal? Because I see a therapist. I must see a therapist. Not just because I'm a therapist, but because I live with a mental health condition. And because I'm human. And I say, so for me, the counseling is about empowerment, it's about clarification, and it's about getting people to just see themselves a bit more. So self-awareness it's an access, because again, self-awareness, in a lot of ways, you still need external source to start the journey of self-awareness. And thankfully, now there's Google. There's a lot of resources out there to gain, to do what we call SWOT analysis, where you check, you do an analysis of your strengths, your weaknesses, the opportunities available, and the threats that are eating into your strengths. There's a lot of self-awareness, simple exercises, and, fortunately, because of the internet, it's free. So get on it. Self-awareness helps. Even when you're dating, if you're going out for the first date, know who you are before, you're given a label, where we are told, fear. A lot of people are saying fear men or fear women. But why is that happening? Why is that happening? So let's take on that self-awareness as a mission. Even as a mission, like you were telling us behind, a mission to understand your purpose. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Chris. So counseling is empowerment, and this church, New Life, as a department that has been leading us since morning, and it's set aside to listen to you. Please don't just suffer alone. Don't lock yourself in your suffering. Come out and get listened to. If they are not able to handle you, they will refer you to somebody who will be able to deal with that. I'm again back to Casmo. Where is the place of God now in your life?
I think for me, because I went to hospital, I spent all those days hating everybody, hating God, and wondering, how can I be with this thing? Why can't you take it away if you say you're all those things, if you're our healer? I think it's very important for us as believers to take solace in the word of the Lord, because he says that his word shall not return vain, unless it accomplishes the purpose for which it was gone. And in Psalm 107 verse 20, he says he is the Lord who heals us, and when he sends his word, it will accomplish what it was meant to. I think, I don't know if, just in developing my personal politic, let me call it Christianity for now, the religion that we have has done quite a bit of work to find out, to create programs for people who are going through addictions, for people who are going through mental health challenges. But also as a church, I think being in a big church like this, unless you're quite the personality, it's very difficult for you to get help. I think I'm a very privileged young man because I'm all over people's faces and I'm always playing that thing, the piano over there, I'm conducting a choir. It's hard for you not to notice me. But I'm thinking about somebody who's going through the same thing that I was going through, who's listening in here, maybe from a corner back there, who we will never know because they are not an usher, they are not an active youth singer, and not by choice. It's just because we do not have enough things to incorporate them into this thing. And that's why I think, I don't know if it's in the spirit of prophecy that Christianity maketh a man friendly. I think as a church, we're doing a good job in being friendly. But let's be more friendly and open up these avenues so that we can reach the people who are unreachable. Because for me, I think I'm a very special case. My friends took it very personally. And the way Chris has said that even caregivers need help, one of my closest friends who took it very, very personally is now on antidepressants. And while I'm undergoing whatever medication I'm undergoing, she also is undergoing whatever medication for depression. And I don't know how many people are as privileged as that. And to find people who, like, there's one time, I was also very psychotic. There's one time I was found in town, roaming town naked. I know I'm known for suits, but now I was in town, and like Maurice took a chance on me, and they took me to hospital. If we can create those opportunities for more people, but also if we could have more dialogue between the older generation and the younger generation to help us build resilience. Because for me, if I get into an accident and my car is written off, all my savings are gone. The woman I thought I loved has escaped and does not care for me. I think that is a very unique position for me. I think I'm the first person to ever go through this. Nobody has ever gone through it. And then you realize, your car did this. Even me, there was a time I crashed on Langata Road. This is where you'll get a nose cut. This is where in sharing intergenerationally, I think it gives us a bit more peace. So if we can do that and have the older generation reach out to the young, not as authorities, but seeking friendship. And I'm also challenging the young people to reach out, because the older people in church are quite the resource. I think that would be in order.
Wow. Thank you, Casmo. That right now you do understand God heals and he loves you and he has a space for you in his heart. I see we are getting, the time is going. I don't know whether I would like to have this session to be for questions. Are there any questions, Carol? Any online questions? I don't know whether someone can give Carol the mic so that she can be able to bring them up. And she brings them up, there is something I need to mention that they are all mentioning as we go on. Chris has talked about self-care. He's talked about what you eat. And I think this church is big on New Start. Nutrition, exercise, water. We have water here. Sunlight, temperance, air, rest, and trust. Trust in a divine power. So if this is with us, that is part of self-care that we all need to be alert to. So I will let Carol give us the questions.
Happy Sabbath. Let me just go through quickly what is online. Kevin Mwangi is saying, good afternoon, such an enlightening session. Truly, may God bless you, all panelists, as you share lots of wisdom. Patrick Omondi, great panel, God bless you. Lemmy Suzette says, let us stand on God's word, no matter what life throws out. As I've been there, and that's what helps me. If you can't pray, tell God to read your heart. Even right now, I have a battle I'm fighting. Okay, Joan Nyameino, this is very interesting, but most families under denial that a family member can be in depression. The truth is that many of us are in depression because we have not gotten support from families. There's a theory, we should accept and seek help if possible. If possible, we should even search it from our fellow believers. Paul urges Christians to bear one another's burden, as in Galatians 6:2. Kevin Mwangi says, great discussion. What if someone is willing to support and help others? However, those that need to be supported aren't available and committed, but even so are in a bad state. How does one proceed? Does it mean that, this is from Mora Ruth, does it mean that when I have backache and mild headache is one sign of mental illness? Then Faith Audi says, we get to talk about depression and anxiety. OCD should be addressed, especially postpartum. Then there's Jane Agoki saying, is there a safe space to share in church and confidentiality? Then the last one, Cheriot Rotich says, elder-stroke-youth relations is big but least developed. Then I have a question here from the congregation. I think these are comments from one of the family members. So it says, I want to find solace in the serenity of endless sleep, never to work up again. That was a profile status of a family member. And part of it also says, about the phone number, it says, I'll die in silence, been judged enough, I can no longer talk, but I'll always talk to her. Also, this person says that whatever it is I've just read, above is my brother-in-law that wrote this on his phone status. He's cut us off as family members and not speaking to us. Last week, Sunday morning, I confronted him about the suicidal note on his phone, but he was hesitant and only asked me, how sure am I that it's suicidal? So the question is, do you think this person can be helped? How can he be helped? And he says there's familiar characters of suicide in their family. An uncle killed himself, and during death of his mother in 2007, he was traumatized. Now he's working and being paid well, and I feel he's running away from responsibility, and he does not want to help his family, who was there for him while he was down, but now he has changed. Help, concern from a concerned family member. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Carol. We've heard the comments, and there is somebody who's been lifting their hand. Give Elder a call, Elder Omo. So as you give Elder Elder, would you like to come forward and just be next to the mic? So as you give Elder the mic, there was a question of, does it mean maybe I have back pain and all that? I have mental health. Doctor, you can answer.
Let me speak on that, and I think this is a good moment that most mental illnesses or diagnoses are actually done once we have removed the other causes. Yes, there are other causes of backaches, headaches, and everything, but we have said that mental illnesses cannot be picked in the radiology or a lab, that is blood works. Once you've gone and you've been told your back is okay and everything is fine, yet you still have the backache, the headache, and everything, please think about mental illnesses. I think I didn't mention that the mind controls most of actually who we are. Concentration, appearance, judgment, the thoughts, the memory, and everything. And that is what we use to diagnose mental illnesses by assessing. And usually, it is a criteria that one meets for the various mental illness. May I take 1 minute to actually comment up, because we have talked about mental illnesses and people are wondering, you mean mental illnesses is not the same as madness? It is not. Madness is just one type of mental illnesses, and we have other groups like what Casper is talking about, mood disorders, where we have depression and bipolar, unipolar, and even hypomania. We have anxiety disorders among there. We have 14 different types of anxiety disorders, including what you hear people talk about, OCD, panic disorders, phobia, and all those things. There are other diseases, like the one I talked about, madness, is called psychosis. That's a group of diseases of the mind. We have diseases of the mind that are called eating disorders. That is still mental illnesses, so it is not all about madness. We have what we call psychological trauma. Casper talked about it, and trauma can come any time in any way. Floods are going to cause trauma to those who are going to survive, and they might develop mental illnesses. Corona left us with a lot of trauma, and some of us would be suffering because of what we saw in COVID. And then the other one is we have those substance-induced disorders, which when you take those substances, you can develop any form of mental illnesses. So that is what we use to diagnose. And therefore, not every headache is mental illness. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Just before you add, Elder could ask, maybe it's something that will go with it.
I just wanted to ask whether a little mental illness could be good. In essence, we say you need something to push you. So they say stress is a form of mental illness. So it's a little mental illness. Good. And is it true or false that all of us have some form of mental illness and that we just need to know how to deal with it? All of us in some way have some form of a mental illness, and if we just need to understand ourselves and deal with it. There are those that we can deal with, and there are those that we need to seek attention.
Thank you so much, because that is a very good question, especially when you are talking about stress. Honestly, all of us are stressed at one point in life. Let me tell you, if you didn't have stress of coming to church, you could have not come. That is essential stress, which God gave us. You can imagine when you are about to do exams, if you don't have butterflies in your stomach, you are not likely to be alert. That is essential stress. When now stress becomes a mental disorder or illness, is when you have excess of that stress or you don't manage it. All of us need stress at one point to actually accomplish our tasks. So if that is what you are calling that you need a form of mental illness, I think I would say yes, to the extent that essential stress is not a mental illness, but you need it to enable you to accomplish some tasks. But we must manage those essential stress so that it doesn't become what we call chronic or now the abnormal stress, which is a mental illness, which many of us, many times, we might find ourselves there. And the stress in itself is not yet so bad until it reaches a burnout, and therefore you go now to drip down, and then you get what you call now the mental disorders. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Quickly, Chris, you could tell us the response.
Maybe 30-something years ago, I had a presentation I was in university still, and then I quit because it was interfering with my drinking. So I had a presentation, Psychology 101, and I left home. We lived in Rongai. I left at 5 a.m. The class was at 9 a.m., got into town at about 6, entered a bar in town to have 5 Pilsners because I was really nervous. And I had done the write-up. Yeah? To this day, I have no clue how that presentation went. I can't remember the grade. Today, because I knew I'll still be in front of people, I was nervous. But I did not need to go to a bar. Now I accept nervousness as a normal human condition. Yeah? And it will pass. And then the other thing I wanted to just add about denial. Denial, I think in a simple English way for me, denial is the inability to deal with reality. It's not the refusal. Caregivers look at the person who's in denial and think they're refusing to deal with reality. So a practical example, as one of the people asked, what's a practical example, especially with somebody suffering, you may not have the diagnosis, but if you go to visit them and find their house, in a shambles, clean it up for them. Just on that day, clean it up, carry food, yeah? And then try and inspire them to go and get a shower and that kind of thing. It will make a difference just for that day. That is a real practical example. And that's when they can, now when they've shivered and they're clean and their environment is, they can now listen, the possibility of listening. And that helps. So those are, that's where we are talking about caregivers. What can caregivers do without having to go getting a medical degree or a counseling psychology degree? Thanks.
Thank you so much. I think time is really not on our side. So I will ask us for a parting shot. This was just a session to create awareness. More and more, this, like you've listened, are people powerful enough know what they are talking about. We can have more sessions on this so that we can... 1 hour is not enough to do it. So I will ask, starting from Casmo, your parting shot as you finish.
Thank you. I try and have friends, try and interact with people that will come through for you. And if you're struggling with addiction, because it's a thing that I've also gotten a soft spot for, just do it just for today. Try and be sober, try and be calm for today. And don't stop trying to live all of life in one day. Because even from Chris speaking, for me, it's a life change. I'll just give you like a small example. I never knew that, because somebody told me to do a to-do list, because I have my ADHD as well. I have 4 illnesses. And I found out that if I did a to-do list, I became so successful. I would finish all my tasks by 11:30, and then I'd be stressed for the rest of the day. Then somebody told me, do you know you can write another to-do list? And I thought that was such a mind-blowing idea. I didn't know that, you just update your to-do list. So as more, befriend people and be open about what you're going through, that thing is going to help you. It will pass. And I'm here for you because people were here for me. If you need me to talk to your teenagers, because I teach them, if you need me to talk to the youth, I'm available. You can find my contacts from the counseling department. Thank you.
So maybe 30 seconds?
30 seconds, wow. Like I started with, mental illness is just an aspect of being human. And being human, being imperfect is, and then with a divine connection, you get to be whole and complete. Our job is to create a community and to be there for each one, and create a perfect society as a goal. Thank you.
Austin, in maybe 30 seconds. Time is really...
Yeah, I think I would normally borrow heavily from Mahatma Gandhi. He once said this: strength does not come from physical capacity, but from indomitable will. I find willpower as the key word in that quote. Your willpower to get out of that situation is what is going to save you. Our offices are in Kitengela. You can always meet me. I'm always online. Mentor Austin Omanya, look for me. We have done a lot of trainings on YouTube. So my YouTube channel is called Mentor Austin Omanya. You can also go to our Facebook account. It is called Mentor Austin Omanya. I've done a nice book here that can help you to come out of any situation. I'm saying God is able to rescue even the person you thought would die like in the next minute. So please, as much as we talk about therapy, give God the first priority in your life, and maybe, just like the Israelites, He will make a way where there is no way.
Thank you so much. It has been wonderful, and I will want to say this, that all of us have minds, and therefore we are candidates of mental illnesses. It's good to accept. Secondly, there are those mental illnesses that run in families, so those families are not cursed. Finally, there is always help, and that is why we are creating awareness so that people can accept and take action, the 3 A's. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We come to the end of this session, and I must say that for the first time I see we are many listening. Thank you so much for coming. I would like to just say that, remember, you are special. You have a place on this earth, and that's why your fingerprints are special. This space you are stepping in is important. You are important. Please do not vacate this place without God's will. Let's pray. Father God, we thank you for the opportunity you've given us to be able to share. We know we could not exhaust this, but we pray that whatever we've shared has touched one, even if it's just one child of yours, so that they can be resilient enough to serve you. Be with us, God, as we part, for we are prayed in Jesus' name. Amen.